What's up, guys? Welcome back. We're here in the garage with the car, and I've got some little cosmetic changes I want to make, maybe a little more race carish. But anyways, this is what I got going on. I've got some gauges in the car that are currently placed in the center console, and I want to move them to a spot where I don't necessarily have to move my head. It really works out where it is right now, but I just want to make a little bit of a change, right? I also want to use a different material for my center console block off plate. So let's dive right into this and I'll show you what I've got. So this is my current center console block off plate, right? It's made out of some tin steel, really good material. It's worked out well, very lightweight, thin as you can tell. I painted it flat black. But what I did is I have an AFR gauge and an oil pressure gauge, and it's in the middle of the car. So let's say, for example, I'm sitting in the car. It's going to be off to my right as a driver. And what I did was I have these diagonal cut pieces that angle the gauges towards me. So this has worked out for years, right? I've had this for a long time. It's been pretty efficient. And what I want to do now is make this plate out of a new material and completely blank, and then put it right in there, right? So I want to have a blank plate there. I'm going to redo that one in some new material, and then the one all the way over there in some new material as well. So I want to take these gauges and put them somewhere else. What I've decided to do is take out my old cluster bezel, right? The cluster goes in here. Well, this bolts, and then you can see the cluster behind it, and replace it with this dual gauge pod bezel. Now, my only gripe with this is I lose the bottom, 3,000-ish RPMs on the tachometer, but who cares about 3,000 RPMs? We're talking about 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 is where I'm going to be at all the time, right? So this isn't that big of a deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these gauges out, pop them in here, move some wiring around that I have in the car, which is essentially these plugs right there, which is for the two gauges, and bring them up to the cluster up there. So let me get started on this. First thing I'm going to do is take these gauges out and mount them inside this bezel. For me to get the gauges out, all I have to do is turn these little brass screws. I lost one, as you can tell. All right, I'll take these brass screws off, and basically the gauge comes right out. Now what I'm going to have to do, though, is I'm going to have to make some new brackets. Whoa, don't lose that. Got it. Make some new brackets, right? So if you guys see, in order for me to use that angled plastic that would tilt the gauge towards my direction, I had to cut these brackets at an offset, right? Because the gauge itself sits in here at an offset, right? So I need to make some new brackets so I can mount the gauges in this pod. So I'm going to make those brackets now, and then we'll bolt everything up. There it is. I've got the little rubber dust mat that gets attached to those little slots there. All I did was spray some spray wax on them, and I was able to pull them out nice and easy. I've got the two gauges mounted and in place with some new brackets that I made, and I found a nut that'll hold the other gauge in. So now this is complete, and all I've got to do is fix the wiring in the car. I've got to make sure that I can get this little bundle, split it up, and then I'll take one side, put it on that side by the tack. This plug will end up going over here by the temperature, and then yeah, I should be all set up to mount that in there. All right, guys, the plugs are in their place. All right, the harness in here has been made fairly neat. Right, this is the plug for my what do you call it, my hazard switch. So I got to mount that somewhere else in a little bit, but I'm focused on this now. So I've got the plugs I need for the wideband, plug I need for the oil pressure sensor. Now this is going to slide right in there and it's going to look nice at home. So let me mount this up and then we'll get a picture and we'll start the car up. And there it is, finished product. Now I can make my new plate over here out of my new material. Got both my gauges here. I think I'm going to try to get the black faces for both of these gauges. See what I was saying, how it blocks out like the first 3,000 RPMs of the tachometer? I'm not really crazy about that. Maybe I'll try and cut this out a little bit so I can see it a bit, but I don't know. This would be my view from my eyes. But yeah, I like this. My other ones, they used to be right here. If you guys remember, they were at this direction at a bit of an angle facing me. And I would have to pan from this view real quick to check, you know, but I like this. This is pretty cool. Let's see. There we go. Wideband, oil pressure, and that's it. It's ready to go. Had to get my steering wheel real quick because at first I was like, oh my God, these are going to be, this parts of the wheel are going to be in the way, but actually I can see these pretty clear. I don't even have to adjust my height of the seat or anything, or the height of the steering wheel. Everything actually, this is my viewpoint right from here. So this is spot on. I actually like this. I think once I get the black faces for the gauges, it's going to be spot on. So yeah, fits great with the steering wheel. Looks pretty good there. Can't wait to have just a blank plate right here. And now I need to find a new spot for my hazard switch. So I'll work on that, but that's neither here nor there. This is what today's video was about. So yeah, I like it. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Do you think this is cool? Should I keep the white faces? Should I just give up on this entirely and YOLO digital cluster, which I want to do, but I can't. I really can't right now. But let me know, which cluster would you pick? All right, guys, so that concludes the video. I'm going to do another one on the new material that I'm using for those block off plates. So this was really just a short, quick one about me relocating those gauges. Eventually, like I said, I'll get a digital display. What I'm really looking at is the PowerTune digital dash. That thing is awesome. The customization on that thing is great. But we'll see. Maybe over the winter time, I'll get me one of those for this old girl over here. Until then, this is what I'm going to be working with. I've got my 2 gauges that I've always had there. I would really love to add a legitimate coolant temperature gauge instead of using the OEM needle, but I'm just gonna wait until I get the digital display. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'll catch y'all later.